Hi, I'm Joy,
Hi, I'm Lorraine.
and this is Girlish Gurus. And Lorraine, why are we here?
We're here to talk about mid-lifestyle topics for women who are 45 and older to help you live your best, healthiest, and most fulfilled life. We're also going to have lots of fun along the way.
Be sure to stick around until the end for fun announcements and goodies you won't want to miss.
So let's get started.
Before we start this episode, please know that there is some discussion of suicide. And if that is a trigger or an issue for you, please be advised we're going to be discussing that topic today. Welcome back to another episode of Girlish Gurus. I'm Joy.
And I'm Lorraine.
Lorraine, what are we talking about today?
Well, what happens when you stop searching for love externally and finally discover it within? Today, we are so pleased to have with us Lori Michalina Wood. She is a woman of deep faith, resilience, and heartfelt storytelling. She is the author of The Invitation, a powerful testimony of healing from emotional wounds and discovering unconditional love through God. Drawing from her own journey of overcoming rejection and pain, particularly from her father, Lori shares a message of restoration, identity, and spiritual wholeness. A devoted mother of 4 sons, whom she homeschooled for 24 years, Lori cherishes family deeply and now embraces life as a grandmother. Love it. I got 7 of my own. she, she is joyfully married to a man she first dated 35 years ago.
Wow.
A testament to love coming full circle. Lori also expresses her creativity through music, songwriting, and photography, and finds peace in the beauty of the outdoors. Through her story, Lori inspires women to break cycles of emotional pain, reconnect with their worth, and experience the transformative love of God. Welcome, Lori.
Wow. Welcome.
So pleased to have you. Lori and I met at an event that I did, an author event, and we kind of clicked. It was about the vagus nerve, and she had just days before come into contact with some kind of thing about it that you had never heard of it before. And then you were invited to come to the event. So we said there's no such thing as coincidences, right?
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So Lori, you wrote The Invitation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's described as a love story, but not in the traditional sense. Can you share what the love story truly represents?
Well, for me, I have to say, as I was growing up in a home where we went to church but we were not really taught much of, we were not taught. What we were taught was what we learned when we got there. We had a dysfunctional bit of a home, and so we didn't see too much of a happy marriage and things like that with our parents. So early on, when I was a young girl and I was experiencing rejection, and like I say, it went back to the day I was born. My dad wanted a little boy, and I was the firstborn, and I was not, and he was. You find these things out as you're a young girl, and it's probably the worst thing because you begin to hear it, and then the things that you feel you're experiencing, you actually know, oh, it did happen. Because my dad was upset and walks out of the hospital room mad, but and so it began then. But what the love story was about was I would hear all throughout my childhood, and it was, "You're okay. It's not that bad." And I would just hear it from time to time. I was thankful that I had the outdoors, and they bought me a horse, and that was the saving grace. I was able to just go to the barn and stay there and enjoy this horse. But every now and then throughout the whole span of my life at the house, I would hear at times just at any time during the day or in the evening, or "You're okay. It's not that bad." And the invitation to me, that was definitely in an encounter that I had at the most broken time of my life. But I wrote to let people know, to let women know. I feel like men do experience rejection and those types of things. But for me as a girl, I don't know. I just felt like I really internalized, and it was a hard thing to have to walk through. Maybe some would do it better than I did. I didn't. But the love story to me was when I didn't even know it, God was there. That's the greatest love story to me, is to know I walked through a lot of that when I was a young girl. And hindsight is 2020. When we
And
look back, we see I'm here today. Those are, signs that God was there with me through all that. And
in your book, you shared about the love for your mom. You talked so highly of your mom throughout the book. So thankfully you
mm,
had that mother figure for
I
you.
did. I
Yeah.
did. She was an
And
amazing lady, and it's
yeah,
dedicated to her. She was my very best friend, and losing her was, it was a very painful thing for me and our family. We lost her tragically, as well. In the book I share. But yes, she
yeah,
was, and it was such a sweet thing. My mom was my security when I was growing up. I could just hold her hand, and everywhere I went, I would not want anybody to see, that's my mommy. She's my mommy, and she was that security for my brother and I.
yeah. And for your sons, right? That you talked about
Oh my goodness.
Ganny.
Ganny.
That's what they called her,
Yes.
Ganny.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
She came every week into the house, and because I homeschooled, and she was just, just there, and just support, and just wanted to love on them. She could retain everything, and I had to study. She could just, spill out a history story for them, and we were truly blessed. She was in our life, and this book is dedicated to her.
So you speak openly about the pain of rejection from your father.
Mm.
How did that experience shape your understanding of love, and what helped you to begin healing?
Well, before you answer that question, just real
Hmm.
quick, we have actually talked about childhood trauma a fair amount on the
Yeah,
podcast in
yeah,
the past. And this is
Oh.
something that I think touches most people at some
Mm-hmm.
point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I appreciate the story aspect of it. And to me, it's not easy writing about it. My
Right.
father just passed away in November, and there's a couple of episodes on the podcast where my sister and I talk about some of the things that happened a couple of years before he passed away. So I do appreciate your sharing the story. And I wonder not just about how your childhood experience shaped your idea of love, but how it also shaped your understanding of childhood trauma and how to get past that.
Yeah. Now I really had to. I went to there was a lady, she wrote the book, Dr. Caroline Leaf. You probably have heard of her, but I went through her study because childhood trauma does truly affect the brain, and the things that
Mm-hmm.
she taught, that our brain was plastic, and there's neuroplasticity, but the brain is plastic. And that was the saving grace for anybody with no hope, that you can change this.
Mm,
And so you basically began to take those thoughts that you had believed about yourself, the self-loathing that it causes you to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you began to, and for me, it was the scriptures. I took a scripture and I stood on it. And so that was my way of reshaping, retraining my brain, the renewing of my mind. That was the hope that it gave me, that this can change. Now, I just bought the book and did the workbook, and I have done the work. And you find yourself, I have it in my book, dated like 4 different times, that I have to go back over the years, and just when you've gone through many, many years of this without knowing what you're dealing with here, you have to go hit it again and again and again. And so that was my way of doing it, was the renewing of the mind. And writing, singing with the guitar and writing songs, those were all and the things that y'all talk about in your retreats, a few of them I already do. And I thought it was pretty amazing, because go get outside, go get out in the woods, and just surround yourself with nature, and the things that, y'all say to do or teach to do. And I had been doing those. And so I just thought it was pretty amazing that I'm already on that road to healing. And I'm always on that road to healing, now at a good place. You're always looking into your heart and saying, any thought that comes, you're like, okay, is that something I need to be thinking? You're always just kind of, I guess when you've had the wounds, and you're just kind of,
Mm.
you're taking care of them, and
Yeah.
they go so deep, and
You have
that
to work on it for a lifetime.
they
Absolutely.
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
do.
Yes.
That's what I guess
Hmm.
I'm trying to say. And one day at a time. And so I don't know if you want me to go there and talk about that, or if you're
As far as with your father, what you dealt with and how to overcome healing. You can talk about your experience, but I also want you to share because I know that your part of your journey now is to inspire women to know that they can overcome
Mm.
these things and then that they can move forward in their life, no matter what that looks like. For some, it may be
Yes.
God, for some, it may be volunteering, for some, it may
mhm.
be just different journeys. But so maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, because I was married twice. Married is my third time. My first husband left. So I revisited rejection a lot. And
Mm.
so,
Don't we
um,
always? It takes a
Yeah.
long time to learn the lessons, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
in that, and it was in my, and it really truly became, and I don't know if this is what you'd really like for me to share, is in my broken state, my dad, and if I could share this in the book, when my dad took his life,
Mm.
um, it came at the 25th year of my marriage, and my marriage fell apart. I mean, it truly was in that, and I just probably gonna start, didn't mean to,
Well, understandable. That I
Yeah.
you
can't
know,
imagine such
I,
trauma.
I
Yes.
think that my dad, and I'd like this to people to know that, God rescues you. I really believe that. And how did he rescue me is through my dad's taking his life. It kind of saved me because it woke me up to what the the toxicness that was inside of me, because um it just woke me up, because you're so broken. I had to walk away, not being able to process why my dad took his life when I tried
Mm.
so hard to help him, and why my marriage was like it was, because he knew the only thing I ever wanted was to be happily married. That was the only prayer that I ever prayed. So I don't know if that's where you want me to begin at, because that was truly where I feel like the work began, was when my dad took his life. And I don't know, you
Yeah,
know.
well,
Wow.
you speak from your heart because
Mm.
when I read your book, I was not expecting because I did not know your story ahead of time. So as I was reading the book, I was crying. I was. I
Oh,
mean,
I
because
mean,
you
that's something that's
to
you make me
first,
an
cry
enormous
again.
tragedy.
I mean,
Yes.
first she lost her her mom tragically, which we won't even because I
Won't
think
talk.
people need to read the story.
I
Yeah.
don't have any Kleenex. I'm telling you right now.
And then just a few years later to lose your dad. But during that time, during that whole time, you still had a relationship with your father. It's not that he wasn't in your life.
Oh, yeah.
He was in your life. You went
Mhm.
and visited with him. You would
Mhm.
share time with him.
Daily. Yeah.
But you always were still seeking for his love and approval
Mhm. Mhm.
and just
So you,
never truly felt it.
And
mhm.
still trying to help him, right?
And
Yeah.
trying to
At the
help him.
same time. Oh, well,
Yes.
yes. I know a little bit about that too.
And
Yes.
I knew Joy would connect with this
Yeah.
because she's experienced some of this in her own family in her life.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So
So
yeah,
we're so
share where you think you want to go as far as the healing part
okay.
with your dad. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I think your message inherently is a powerful one in that you can
Mm,
experience such enormous, awful, such an enormous traumatic event, series of events,
mhm.
and and still move forward. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And
Okay.
still
So
and still find that joy on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I don't know why. I think it's just a daughter thing, a girl thing, but I loved my dad. I truly wanted to be in his lap, like, and be he just was my mother I love my mother and I love my parents so much, but I just wanted to be that daddy's girl always. And so, knowing what he had been through in his life and finding out that later in life, I wanted to really help him then because I felt his pain. He had
Mm.
lost his parents tragically. And so, um, and I always tried, but it was not in the cards for him to be able to love me like
Mm.
that. And so and when we lost our mom, he loved our mom, and he really just really loved our mom, and needed her by his side. And so when he lost her, I knew as I looked across the street from him with her, had lost her life, that I was going to be taking care of him.
Mm.
And so I thought, even in that time, I thought, maybe God's going to let that relationship come. And but it didn't end that way. For 4 years, I ministered to him, counseled him every day. I would call him; he would be at rock bottom, and by the end of our conversation, he would be, thank you, Lori, so much for helping me. And um, but he still kept us at a distance. It was like, you don't understand, you lost your mom, but I lost my wife, and so it kept us always on the outside. And but I still just, it's amazing the power of love, what you will do when you love somebody. And so what truly helped me to heal myself, began healing, was the day I lost my dad. And my dad took his life. And it's it's just crazy how I always knew my dad was going to do that. I just
Mm.
didn't know the day it was coming. And so when I found out about it, it was no surprise to me. But it shattered me. And because for many reasons, that the desire, the
Mm.
dream is over. You're never going to have that
Right.
relationship with him.
Yeah.
Number two is you didn't get to help him. And
Right.
number three, when you love somebody that much, you don't want to see them in that place of where they were when that happened to them, and you couldn't help them. And so at that time, I've also lost 25-year marriage that my only dream in my whole life was. And I prayed one time when I was a young girl, up and standing, I know where I was standing at in the pasture of my horses. And I looked up into the sky, and I said, Lord, I just want to have a happy marriage and love that person, and them love me, and have a family. And that's really the only thing I ever wanted, And so so when I lost that marriage of 25 hard years of hard work, of hard life, because it's what rejection does to you.
Mm.
Rejection causes insecurity, it causes low self-esteem, it causes self-loathing, which I didn't even know that word until after this situation that happened with my dad. Your eyes are opened, and because and you lose your dignity. You lose your dignity. And I think that's what I hated the most about this, losing the marriage, was I lost so much dignity trying so hard to make something happen. But my dad, in a beautiful, loving way, my dad saved my life when he took his life. And that's a terrible thing to say, but if I could, whisper into heaven and let him know, is he kind of saved me, because he woke me up that this is what's going on inside of your life, inside of your body and your soul. There's so much there. And so there's this little book right here called The Art of Extreme Self-Care that I found one day, and it really began to wake me up, taking care of myself, and
Mm-hmm.
loving myself. And it started a whole new journey of, as I'm writing the invitation, the story, it started a whole new journey of, in my encounter that, I had with God at the edge of the water. When my dad took his life, I had just prayed, and I had begged my husband, at the time, just take me to the ocean, take me to the beach, just take me away from this town. And I was just coming alive again. I believe when you lose somebody like that, you go into shock. I went into shock. You don't feel anything. And maybe a couple months later, as life is carrying on, I'm coming awake. I'm coming out of that shock of, and that's when my husband, my marriage fell apart, and and I found a way to get to the ocean alone. It was crazy, but Topsail was my place to go. And I in the middle of June or July, you don't find cancellations to a beach house out there. And I found one cancellation and I got to Topsail, and at that place, it was just the most surreal feeling of love that I had ever experienced and never will forget. And I walked out one day to the waters and had a friend of mine that came for that day, and she didn't even know, I didn't even know what she was doing, and she didn't know what was happening, but she took a picture of me standing at the water with my dog, and it's on the back of this book. And I was having an encounter with God. I was kind of like out on this, like the front of my book. It's a boat, and it's water, and it's deep water. And I'm afraid of deep water, and I love the water. But I felt him saying, I want you to come out here into the deep with me. And deep for me represented, and him represented trusting him. Because when you lose someone to suicide, you want to process it. You want to figure out and get to the bottom of why did they do that. And the Lord was saying, no, I don't want you to process it. You cannot process that. I want you to get out of this boat, and I want you to come on out here with me and just trust me. He's
I
done
know that
processing.
your journey now is you want to inspire women who maybe have gone through emotional trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and especially women in our demographic, right? Are
Mm-hmm.
older, maybe their marriages have ended, maybe they've
Mm-hmm.
lost people to suicide or tragic deaths, and they're trying to overcome that. And I know that your hope is that you can inspire women that, just like you said about neuroplasticity, you can
Mm-hmm.
change your thoughts, you can change where you
Yes.
are, because that deep depression can set
Yes.
in for many women, no matter what they're going through in their
Mhm.
life, right? Especially, it's I guess there's a high incidence of it postmenopausal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything that you can do to inspire women to take those next steps, like your writing and your singing
Mm-hmm.
and your ministering to
Mm-hmm.
people. Well, in the beginning, when I first introduced you, we shared that your current husband is someone who you reconnected with after 35 years. So I know that the women that are listening out there, because that's kind of like a romantic story. So can you share a little bit about that? And I think I did ask you if that's will be included in your next book. And I think you said there is a chapter about that, but can you just share a little, like a teaser about that, about
Oh,
how you reconnected with him?
it's definitely a funny one. And I'll share just a tiny bit then. So yes, 35 years I had done this date went south 35 years earlier. It just went bad. I'm young and we're dumb and we see a great person and we just think, I'm gonna go, we're just, you just don't think smart. And so I kind of that date went south, kind of my fault a little bit. And so for 35 years, I held that um in my heart that I had done someone wrong and never forgot it. And 35 years later, after I'm sitting on the couch for about 2 years alone, and really God is restoring my soul. As I was talking to you about the cash sheep, He was restoring me back to wholeness. And when I came to that place of really being in a good place, I wrote an apology letter to this man. I didn't know I didn't know if he was married. I didn't know where he lived. I didn't know my best friend that was my friend at the time and his friend at the time who introduced us, that she had said, you need to meet this guy. And I thought, oh, I don't know. And so, but we did. And so I got my pen out, my paper, and I wrote a letter to him. He probably couldn't read it very good because I had terrible penmanship. And I looked his name up on the white pages on the internet, and I found an address, and I sealed that envelope and put it in the mail. And 3 days later, he got this apology letter. And the first thing he did was called our friend and said, "Gail, is Lori okay?" He thought maybe it was such a sincere letter, and he did get it, the letter. It did go to the right address. And now today I live in this house that I sent that letter to 35, a few years ago. But he thought, that maybe something was wrong with me, and I needed to, how we want to make things right with everybody. And but no, I just had carried that in my heart for so long, something I had done that was, not a nice thing. And so I wrote that apology letter, and that is how we became a friend first to one another. And he wasn't married. And so I told him in the letter, I said, maybe one day we can have coffee and I'll share to you what was going through my mind 35 years earlier, because I was a mess. I didn't
Well, you made amends. So,
but I did.
yes,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
powerful step in finding yourself again. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And for women out there, and I know Joy and I have talked about this a lot, oftentimes signs come to us, right, for
Mhm.
things,
Mhm.
and we don't accept them as the true signs that they are in life. And
Yeah.
so for women that may be seeking help, it could be a woman's circle, it could be another family member, um, it could be a therapy group, it could be
Yes.
so like seeking things to help you in your life. Those things could be your signals, could be your signs of,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
I would definitely say, counseling, and I know it costs, but counseling, every dime I spent, because I did go, and
Mhm.
every time I went, I walked away feeling better. God would even use that person to speak to me, and just dramatically turned my direction to another way. That was that, it was that great of things that happened. And um, look for be expecting, look for those signs. Look around the corner at the things that, even the things that you love. Pay attention to the things that you love, because those are ways that God is speaking, I believe, to encourage us, to get us just to take a step. We don't have to take 10 steps. Sometimes it was just a baby step,
Hmm.
and
One after the other.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah. So at the end of each of our episodes, we have three questions that we like to ask women, and it gives everyone a sense of your beliefs, your principles.
Hmm.
And we just love hearing this from women at the end of each episode. So, Joy will go ahead and ask you the three questions. And then after that, don't disappear, because we want to just see where we could find all of your information in your
oh,
books and what you're doing. Okay.
All right. So, whenever we have an opportunity to talk with someone who has a particular philosophy of life, and thank you so much for sharing
Hmm.
such a deeply personal story.
Yeah.
That's just
Which, yeah. The
uh,
women out there definitely need to read this book. It's such a, I read it in two sittings.
mhm,
Lori has just a way of writing that just flows, and it's just like you feel like you're right there with her. So I highly
oh,
recommend it, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
okay.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I love about this podcast is it's very organic in the way we put it together. But when it comes to the opportunity to share some of your life philosophy with our audience, we ask a few questions. And the first of those questions is, if your 80-year-old self could whisper something to you, what do you think she would say?
wow. If my 80-year-old self, it would, I would keep keep living every day, expecting something wonderful to happen, because that's who I am. Even though I have been through some really sad situations, I'm so glad that you can call it optimism, there was a gift of faith that was planted inside me when I gave my life to the Lord, that I just so thankful for that. It causes that, it's the little girl. If we stay childlike, we can learn so much, even at 80 years old, I believe.
Having been through the experiences you've been through and finding the opportunities to stay positive and to continue to thrive in your life, that's very inspirational.
Yes.
Okay, so the second question that we ask is, what is the one thing in your life now that you are surprised to find is your superpower, the one thing that you've become good at that you never thought you would be good at before?
Oh, let's see here. I don't know if you call it a superpower, but I enjoy myself. I love, I don't want to say love myself, but
Well,
Well,
why
you can
not?
say
but
that. You can.
it's
Yes.
a real superpower for me because I never did. And so to say, I really love myself. And I think we need more of that, to love on ourselves, and not in a way that it's all about us. But I think that the beauty of that is when we do love ourselves, it'll spill over
Hmm.
into others. And so I think that's our first place to start, is a superpower, is to take care and love on yourself, because eventually, as it starts to fill up, it will spew over.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the third and final question is, what is one thing you've stopped apologizing for?
Oh my goodness, I have apologized my whole life.
Well, that's something a lot of us as women have done, right? Yeah, that's why
Yes,
this is
I
such a
have.
powerful question. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I've stopped apologizing. Oh my, if my husband could hear this, he's the one
Mhm.
who's always said, you need to stop apologizing. And I've stopped I'm trying to stop apologizing. Something happened in the last 24 hours that, as a mom, I needed to do. And I thought, well, you know what? It just may really upset one of them, my little boys, that are grown men. But I think I will not apologize for being myself. When I don't want to be opinionated, but if I feel like to the core of my being that as a mom I need to do or say something, I'm not going to apologize for it. And so,
Yay.
so I,
Lorraine, sounds familiar?
Yay.
so listen, so I had the opportunity today, even, as we text our children, and I was like, I almost was going to, I'm sorry if this, but I said, oh no. Oh no, you're going to erase that right now. You are not apologizing for this. And so it happened today but yeah, it's a word I live with very often, because when I grew up, I thought I was the reason why the family was not happy, is because
Mm,
I had came and I began apologizing very young in my life. And so no need to apologize no more.
Okay. Well, I love that one.
mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Yeah. Because my reasoning is always, I'm your mom and I have to say this.
Good,
It's my
good.
job.
Yeah, I thank you. Thank you for that. You just confirmed it.
Yes.
Because I thought, I don't feel bad. I don't need to apologize. And I'm like, I must be really transforming.
Perfect. Okay, so Lori, tell us, where can we find your books? And I know that you have two that are published now, but you're working on a third one, I think, right?
I
So,
began one, yes.
okay,
Mhm.
so the two books are on Amazon,
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, what is the other one? Ingram Sparks.
Ingram Sparks. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay. And we'll
So
put the links to the books in the show notes.
Mhm.
And then what? So it's The Invitation, Dancing with Jesus. And do you have a title for the new one that's coming out?
I
Or are you working on it?
a woman alive
Mm.
Ah,
is something I've really thought about. It became that when I began to write, and because I am becoming that, and that's why I love your podcast, because I thought, well, they're just a women that helping women become
Mm.
alive.
We're
yes.
trying. Yep.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love
Every
Yes.
episode.
thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes.
I do have a website, and it's um what is the name of my web? Oh, dancingwithjesus.shop. And so
Okay.
you can also go through that, but Amazon, Barnes and Nobles are
Okay. But we'll put the links to
good
everything. We'll
Mhm.
put your
place. Okay.
website and
Yes.
Amazon. Yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah. Well,
Thank
this,
you.
Lori, this has been such a pleasure. It was
Mhm.
my honor to meet you and connect at the little party that we were at
Yes.
together.
Mhm.
And we wish you the
Thank you.
best with your books.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and your
We
life.
Yes, absolutely. And again, thank you so much for sharing such a personal story.
Yeah,
And
it touched me. Yeah.
it is very,
Oh,
I think that it can help a lot of women know, and a lot of people know that there is a path forward.
Yeah.
And it
absolutely.
might not look the same for
Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but there is a path forward. And a lot of times it does start with you loving yourself. And so
Mhm. Mhm.
I certainly appreciate that. And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. And we would like to invite everyone to give this video a like, a share, and subscribe to our channels and our platforms. And yes, just thanks for being there and for supporting us.
Thank you again. Thank you
Oh,
so
yeah.
much. I really
Oh,
It
appreciate
was
the
our
time and
pleasure.
your your compassion for us. Thank you.
you're
No.
very, very welcome. And
Yeah.
we wish you all the best and keep moving forward. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
All right. I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah.
And please join us for more fun episodes coming up. And until then, we'll see you in the next one.
Mhm.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Girlish Gurus. We hope you'll join us next time for more fun and inspiration. Be sure to check the description of this episode for links and information about the topic, and you can find us on our social media platforms starting with Instagram, Facebook, and now including YouTube. You can find us by searching Girlish Gurus, and you can also check out our website, girlishgurus.com, for more information on us, our projects, books, and our growing community.
And don't forget to download this episode, give it a good review, and share it with your girlfriends. We would also love to hear from you in the comments because the more interaction we get, the more episodes we can post. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.